So as people, as entrepreneurs, gather data to assess whether or not the opportunity they have in mind is really attractive enough to be worth their time and their effort, there are a couple common mistakes I find they make. One of those mistakes is they get all enamored of the market. So they look deeply at the market and they get lots of internet data on how big is the market and how fast is it growing and what are the macro trends, economic trends, social trends, demographic trends, and so on that are driving that market and likely to make it grow or not in the future. So they do a lot of that. And they may also go out and talk to a lot of customers and get a real insight as to what customer needs are and how they might satisfy those needs. So the entrepreneur does a great job on the market side of things, but gets blinded by that and fails to say, well, what about the industry? And what you also need to do is say, well, is this an industry in which I really want to compete and in which I can compete? And do I have a chance to maintain sustainable competitive advantage over time and build a business model that's going to work? They forget that side of it. So quite commonly people get blindsided by the attractiveness of the market and they forget to ask the question, do I want to be in this industry? It's really important. And there's a second common mistake that I also find as well. Many people, particularly in this day and age where so much information is available on the internet, spend all their time getting macro level data. So they know all about how large the market is, and they've got extensive data on trends that are driving that market, and they know how fast it's growing, and they've done a really careful analysis of the industry. They've gone into Michael Porter's 5 forces and dissected each of those and determined what the strengths and weaknesses of that industry are, and that's all great. And then they stop. And they don't ever get out of the office or out of the building and talk to a real customer and find out what do customers need, where's their pain, and what is it they can do that will solve a real pain. Steve Jobs, when he reinvented Apple and made it a music company instead of a PC company, did that because there was a real pain that the music industry had. People were downloading music from Napster and not paying for it. So who had pain? The artists who recorded that music had that pain. The people who composed that music had the pain. The music industry, the publishers had that pain. Everybody had a real problem. Steve Jobs solved, at least in part, that problem. So he was directing his attention to something for which there was a real customer problem. All too often, an entrepreneur says, oh, I have an idea and I've got all this macro level data, but I haven't really actually talked to any customer to see if there's a real pain. And similarly, on the industry side, they haven't done any homework to figure out, can I sustain competitive advantage over time, over at least some time if I do this, and have I figured out how the business model is going to work? How soon will I get paid? How slowly can I pay my suppliers? What kind of margins can I expect? All those issues. You can figure those things out up front, but too few people do.